All right. Hello, everybody. We are here to send 3 significant pieces of legislation to the President's desk. This is legislation that will make a real difference to improve people's lives. It's incredible what this Congress has achieved just this week. First up is the Financial Reform Bill. This is going to help community banks that have been hurting for years under overregulation. It will create a better environment for Main Street to thrive. It will open up more opportunities for families and small businesses. It will make the economy stronger. I want to thank Chairman Jeb Henseling and the members of the Financial Services Committee for their work on this legislation. Then is the Right to Try bill. Because of this law, terminally ill patients will be able to get access to experimental treatments and therapies to have a chance for a longer life. This gives families, those who've been really hurting, this gives them something that they have not been able to get: more time and more hope. I want to thank Chairman Walden and the Energy and Commerce Committee. I want to thank Ron Johnson from Wisconsin for their tireless efforts that have made this day possible. And then third, we have the VA Mission Act. Memorial Day reminds us that our moral obligation to do right by our nation's heroes. This bill will give veterans better access to the care that they need and the care that they deserve. It's another critical step in the work led by Chairman Rowe and the members of his committee and Chairman Isaacson to put the VA back on track. All of these are promises that we have kept, and there's more to come. Today, the House will act on legislation to continue rebuilding our military and give our service members another well-deserved pay raise. And in the coming weeks, we will be acting to combat the opioid epidemic that is ravaging our communities. But today, these 3 bills are set to become law. Today, months, in some cases, years of hard work has come to a successful conclusion. Today, we turn good ideas into real results to help improve people's lives. I am just so proud of that. Before we sign these bills, I'd like to ask our committee chairs to say a few words about these very important pieces of legislation. Chairman Henseling.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And for far too long, far too many Americans have struggled to get a home mortgage, to get an auto loan, maybe to capitalize a small business or to realize their version of the American dream. All of that because of the sheer weight, volume, complexity, and load of a bureaucratic regulatory onslaught from Washington. Today, this all changes. Credit will be unlocked for millions and millions of hard-working Americans. A new day of economic opportunity has dawned. I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your leadership. I want to thank my Senate counterpart, Mike Crapo, for his wonderful leadership as well, and all members of the Financial Services Committee. We've been losing a community financial institution every other day in America. The big banks have gotten bigger, the small banks have gotten fewer. That changes today, and again, a new era of economic opportunity with credit being unleashed. I look forward to you signing this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Walden.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and we're delighted to be here this morning to have you sign this legislation on right to try. And I especially want to thank the President of the United States. Donald Trump has been an incredible advocate and tireless warrior in support of this legislation. And I want to thank Senator Johnson and Vice President Pence as well, and Dr. Burgess on our committee that chairs the subcommittee, and of course, Brian Fitzpatrick and Congressman Biggs as well. This is about saving lives. This is about people who have no other choice. They are on death's doorstep, and there may be an opportunity for them to try something that hasn't gone all the way through the process. It could save their lives. I've met with these families. I've met with these individuals. This right to try legislation will save lives. It will give people hope that they otherwise would not have. And so, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate your leadership in this effort and that of my committee and of the Senate, certainly, and especially the President of the United States.
Chairman Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 45 years ago, right now, I was a young Army officer in Southeast Asia and came home to a country that really didn't treat our veterans as they should have. One of the great privileges of my time here in Washington, D.C. is to help rectify some of that. And we've done that with a bipartisan bill called the VA Mission Act. And it's one that puts veterans in charge of their health care. Number two, we have a caregiver bill there that allows catastrophically injured veterans to receive the care pre-9/11. Post-9/11, we already do that. But our World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, we did not do that. And lastly, a part of this bill is called the AIR Act, which allows us to right-size the VA to a more modern system of health care. It is a fantastic bill that would not have happened had it not been for the leadership of Senator Isaacson and the Senate, Tester. This was a bipartisan bill, and it's a great bill to place on the President's desk for Memorial Day. And I do want to, as Greg Walden just said, I want to give a shout out to President Trump, who, when he gave his acceptance speech the night at 3 o'clock in the morning, when he was, one of the first things out of his mouth was, I want to do right by our nation's heroes and veterans. And so I'd like to also thank President Trump.
Chairman Isaacson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to say that it's been a great pleasure for me to work with Phil Rowe. He is a great chairman. The House members have been fantastic to deliver the votes they did last week. I'm so proud we could have an overwhelming victory in the Senate yesterday. And I'm so glad on the eve of Memorial Day that we're passing this legislation, signing it into law, and seeing to it that those who sacrificed and gave the ultimate sacrifice, whom we honor on Memorial Day, know that we're still watching, we're still working. We're going to see to it we provide the health care they deserve. And those that volunteer for the armed forces today will know we'll keep our promise in the future. This is a great piece of legislation. As Phil said, it's the last piece of a mosaic that began 2 years ago when President Trump was elected, and the first promise he made on health care, on veterans care. We passed 11 accountability, reform, and health care bills in the VA. We're poised and positioned to end the morning headlines of failures and begin to talk about successes in the Veterans Administration and their health care. I'm glad to have been a part of it. I appreciate the support of Speaker Ryan, Chairman Rowe, John Tester on my side, and all the members of our caucus for working hard to pass a great piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Chairman Johnson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I want to thank you for your support of Right to Try, Majority Leader McCarthy, Chairman Walden, Dr. Burgess, Representatives Biggs and Fitzpatrick, who really championed this on the House side. There's no doubt about it, without President Trump raising this profile in the State of the Union and saying this is a priority of his administration, it's really what made Right to Try, the passage of it, possible. So I want to thank President Trump. Also, Vice President Pence has been a stalwart in the support of this bill. But today, with this signing and the signing hopefully next week by the President, we are restoring a little bit of freedom, a little bit of hope for terminally ill patients and their families. I can't understate the fact that this will save people's lives. But the people we really need to thank are the folks that are the namesake of the bill, and thousands of them like that. Trickett Wendler, a young mom who had ALS who's no longer with us. She lost her battle, and her husband, Tim. Frank Mongiello, who's battling ALS right now. Jordan McLinn, a little boy with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and his mom, who worked tirelessly. And then Matt Bellina, a former naval aviator that also has ALS, he's battling it. These are the people who tirelessly, with thousands other, worked to pass Right to Try laws in the states. 40 states passed them. More than 97% of the state legislators who voted for Right to Try voted yes, because it does save lives, it does restore freedom and hope. So again, I just want to thank everybody for all of your efforts, particularly you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
And now we're going to start signing. Okay. Right.